Hello, hello, hello. How are you all doing this evening? I am Ayanna Castro. I'm the founder and chief Maven of Work Your Package, and welcome to the latest episode of Maven Conversations. So, I am super excited to talk with this next Maven because we had a little inside joke between her and I, and she was like, the Maven and the Maverick. She is truly a Maverick, like in all types of ways. Her bio reads like none other. She has so many hats that she wears. She moves between the roles of being that supportive wife, a loving mother, the empathetic mentor, and a successful corporate executive. And she's also a compassionate community leader. She is the president and chief brand strategist for Phoenix Lifestyle Marketing Group. And in this capacity, she has been able to steer this company towards unbelievable growth. She navigates between the critical decision making for Fortune 500 companies, as well as inspiring and motivating her team to continue to serve their clients. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time reading her bio because if you watch this, you know that one of the questions is, who are you? So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Elizabeth Kemp Caulder to the stage. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello, Ayanna. How are you doing tonight?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing today?
I'm doing extraordinary. Thank you for asking.
I like that. Extraordinary. I might have to add that into my responses. Hey, I'm doing well. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for asking. Extraordinary. Oh, I like that. So I'm gonna have to add that. So fresh out the gate, question number one. This is how it goes. Who is Elizabeth Kemp Calder? Who is she?
That's a tough question. You always start off with the tough ones, right? Um, I would say that Elizabeth is a wife, a mother, and an executive. I'm also a professional do-gooder, just trying to bring light to the world.
You know there's more, right?
I'm sure there is. You're gonna pull it out of me, though.
So proceed. Who else? Who else is Elizabeth?
Well, I think Elizabeth, part of my identity is, especially in bringing light to the world, is as a community activist and a philanthropist. And so outside of my work environment, I donate quite a bit of my time um, in order to make the world a better place. I have been a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated for the past 27 years. So that is one way that I give back, but also through my organization. I think it's important to understand that all money isn't good money, and so I have the luxury of determining what types of organizations and brands that I want to represent. And so from an organizational standpoint, my company actually utilizes our marketing and brand strategy powers for the forces of good, supporting organizations that are out there that are trying to make the world a better place for all of us and our children and our grandchildren. I've lost your sound. You look lovely, but I can't hear you.
There we go. We're live. I just wanted to make sure that we were live and on all the different platforms that I said that we were going to be on. So
Okay.
we are live.
See, I felt like it's you and me, so I feel comfortable.
Yeah, well, listen, it could be just you and I don't care because what's going to happen is they're going to catch the replay and then they're going to be mad that they weren't on here live to catch it all. So it's fine. It's okay. It's okay. So your organization, your company, Phoenix Lifestyle Marketing Group, which if y'all haven't checked it out, please go on the website, go check it out. Please go see all the phenomenal things that they do. Like the biggest thing that stood out to me is that you were listed as the agency of record for the Montgomery County Bar Association. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, we've been doing brand strategy and brand design for Montgomery County Bar Association and Foundation.
Now, with all of the fabulous things that you do, with all the great things that your organization does, what actually led you you creating Phoenix, and why did you name it Phoenix? Because everybody has a reason behind the name of their company.
Oh, you can get real today, right? Okay. So I've been in the marketing industry for the better part of the last 30 years ish. 26 or so. Um, and over the course of my tenure leading marketing agencies, I've learned quite a bit about how to do business. And I think even these executive roles that I've held over the last handful of agencies, the last couple of decades, you're always faced with situations and decisions that if you were the sole maker of said decision, would you do it that way? And I've had, over the course of my career, I've learned a lot of things that are great and the best ways to do business. And I've also learned a lot of things that I personally believe philosophically that a business should never ever do. With regard to what lengths you're willing to go to support your clients and what lengths you're willing to go to create an environment that fosters the belonging that's necessary for people to be able to show up as they are and be valued for their work and their contribution. And so I was with an organization 2 agencies ago, and I had been there for 17 years, so quite some time, and I had philosophical differences of opinion with the ownership of said agency. But as a member of the executive team, I was oftentimes the person that was called upon to share those decisions, both internally and externally. And I got to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. And for right, wrong, or indifferent, that agency, their ownership could decide what direction that they wanted to go in. And the thoughts that I had, or the beliefs that I had, the direction that I would take the agency would have been different. And so I got to a point where it was pushing a boulder uphill, and that's kind of a silly thing to continue to do, especially if it's icy out. So I decided that at that point I would walk away from that comfortable position and a nice cushy executive check and decide what I was going to do next. And I just knew that whatever I would do was going to afford me time to commit to my family, and also to be able to control those things that I mentioned earlier about how, what are the decisions that we make on behalf of our clients and how do we treat our people. So a short time later, I was tapped to run another agency based down in the Mid-Atlantic in the Charlotte area. And so I took on that role. They had experienced a tremendous amount of growth, which is a good problem to have, but a problem nonetheless. And so I was tapped to come in there and to be able to provide some rigor around how that agency was being run, to ensure the confidence of the clients who were investing heavily in their services, but some of the delivery of execution was faltering, and also to bring cohesion to that staff. And I believe that I did that. I was only there for a short time. About 6 months into my tenure there, I was actually notified by the CEO of the parent company that the company, the subsidiaries were being dismantled, including the one that I was running, effective immediately. Yes. So
effective immediately.
Can you imagine this blindside? I mean, I've experienced a lot of things in my career, and I actually, it's a crazy experience to say that you're thankful for, but it was something that I'd never experienced before. But I thought that the gravity of the situation warranted direct communication with the personnel and also with the clients who had been promised delivery of the services. And so I was bracing myself for the public meeting that was to come. But what I was surprised by is that when I communicated to the staff, I was expecting them to be, they were blindsided as the same as I was. But I expected them to be angry with me because I was delivering this news. And what I got was the opposite. I got appreciation for the leadership that I had provided over the last handful of months. And I got requests to work under my direction in the future. There were tears shed. It was an amazing experience, and had what led up to it never occurred, I would have never had that experience in my life. So I'm thankful for that. The clients as well. I had clients that said, couldn't you just start your own agency and we could have continuity? We've seen what you've been able to accomplish over 6 months, and it's been a full 180. And if you could just start your own agency, um, that we could continue to move forward and work with you. We'd have that confidence level. And quite frankly, I've never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've never had that desire. Never was on my plan. And it's always funny when God thinks or God tells you that you think that you have a plan. Um, but I thought, what if I could take all of those people that were blindsided by this situation and put them back to work doing what they love in a place that I can control whether or not they are appreciated and valued and celebrated for their diversity and their differences. And that's how the Phoenix came to be. I founded the Phoenix as a result of that situation. So I was joined by former employees, some suppliers, and clients even who subscribe to this do right philosophy that doing business the right way is the only way to do business. Founded the Phoenix, and as you can tell, the name the Phoenix is chosen specifically because we rose from the ashes of that last experience. So that's exactly how we got here. And since that founding, we've moved from being just an idea of something that could be into a powerhouse. And as you mentioned earlier, we are providing brand strategy, design, and experiential marketing services to Fortune 500 companies. We are in support of a number of global multinational organizations, and we're doing fantastic work.
See, and I'm gonna pull all this out today. I don't know why you sitting up there acting bashful. We gonna get all this information today because I think that there are so many people, and I speak to the heart of women. I'm very clear on who um, my audience. I'm very clear about that. But I think in general, a message of what you thought something should be and it turning into something else was exactly what you needed. Because Phoenix might not have existed had you not had literally the rug pulled out from underneath you. You would
Yes.
have just been going along to get along and just been like, well, okay, well, I'm gonna collect this check and we're fine. And I'll take my vacation on these days because I have vacation days and I'll just do this. And lo and behold, no. And no, that's not the way things happen. But I wonder, and this is a deviation from my typical question, I wonder whether or not there were ever breadcrumbs that were left that you realized later. When hindsight is always 2020, when vision is very clear, were there any breadcrumbs that led up to that?
I would say that my path has been paved very specifically for me to be exactly where I am. And so exactly as you allude to breadcrumbs, that's exactly it. They were there all along. But it is easier to collect that check and to take your vacation days, and because you have them, and to try to turn it off. You turn the light switch off and you say, I'm going home, I'm going to cut it loose. But I don't think that I've ever been the turn the light switch off type person. So even if it weren't Phoenix, an agency that I started, in every role that I've ever had, I've always had the same level of commitment to making sure that the work that I put forward is correct and that it's appreciated and it's the highest quality. And so I think I've probably been behaving like an entrepreneur for much longer than I've actually been one, but it's been to the benefit of probably other folks.
But that there is such a thing as being an entrepreneur within a company, right? Um, and it's typically, like you said, those people who don't turn the light off. It's the folks that do the extra. They add the 110% on top of the 150 that they already had, and people try to figure out, well, how did they get it done? How did they get it done? And one of the best pieces of advice that well, not even a piece of advice, but just a note was, things that come easy to you is truly your gift, and you should
Mm-hmm.
charge double.
Mm-hmm.
So for folks like us who it's not a big deal to do what it is that we do, it's almost like breathing this inside the DNA. It is absolutely understandable how Phoenix came about because it I I don't know if I could separate the two, right? I don't know if I could separate the two. You look at Phoenix and it's like, yep, that's her. That's Elizabeth. Like I don't know if I could separate the two because it's so seamless underneath your leadership. So that's
Well,
just a kudos and a clap for you, because
I do appreciate that. I do appreciate it. But I do think that the path has been laid for me, whether I recognized it or not. And I do believe that I believe that every time things that feel like they're bad, tragic things that feel awful, things that you feel like you cannot possibly pull your way out of. I
hmm
believe every one of those things are gifts. And it's up to us to try to figure out what the light in the darkness is. What is the reason for this gift? Um, and I'm probably pivoting, but you'll throw things at me if I'm going the wrong direction. But I feel the same way about the work that I do for the March of Dimes. I think that the reason why I'm so committed to the March of Dimes is not just because it's a national project for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, but also because I'm a mission mom. And my son David was born 4 months too soon, along with his older brother and older sister who were pregnant with triplets. And a lot of times people experience loss like that, catastrophic loss, and they can't make it through. But at the end of the day, I was supposed to learn from something from that experience. I was supposed to have that experience with my husband. We went through it together. And when we came out on the other side, we said we can help people who have to go through the experience. We volunteer our time in the hospital with, especially folks that have multiples that have had a loss or something like that, because we have the ability to show them that you can make it through the other side and that there is happiness on the opposite side. But in addition to that, to spend your time to try to figure out what are the ways that we can raise the funds that are necessary to make sure that there's a future where no family has to experience what we had to experience. And so I was fortunate to have the gift because I could turn it into something that would help other people. And so I think that I'm fortunate for even the experience of the loss. That's part of the gift that I was given. It's not the ones that we choose for ourselves, but those that are chosen for us.
this is true. So I often tell people, the things that we go through, they leave these scars. Some people have scars that are very visible, and other people have scars that are underneath the surface. But either way, your scars show evidence that you survived.
Mm-hmm.
And your scar also is a map to show others on how to survive it as well.
I love that.
So I, I, it's a map. And when you're available to being vulnerable, to sharing what it is that you experience and what you have learned through that process, that is the best type of healing that you can get. The joy that comes from seeing someone else being able to prosper, do better, get better because of what you were able to share from your journey, regardless of how painful it might have been, right? Because sometimes when you share it, it's that same wound that you have to keep opening over and over and over and over again. But opening that wound heals somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so even in that work, there might be days, because I know there's times I share my story about various things. There are days I just walk away and I'm just like, oh Lord, I'm so tired. Like that was exhausting. That was just too much. That was
Uh-huh.
just too, Lord, it's too much. But then you hear back from the person that you shared with. I forget about it all. I forget about all the anguish I felt, because if one person can be helped from it, then it's
It,
all worth it.
it is. It's a labor of love. It's bringing light to the world for others. It is the same thing that we were saying earlier about, like, where you were talking about it's a map to lead others to knowing that they can survive too. And I think that there's something to be said about humility, right? That people look at folks that they think have it all figured out, right? And there's this assumption that some people have everything's just going your way. And so I just remember going back to the conversation about the Phoenix and the history that led to the Phoenix. And I'm sure that there were some folks that saw me when I got the rug pulled out from under me and then blindsided by that news about the dismantling of the last agency. And they said, ha ha, look, you walked away from blah, 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 and now you're here and look what happened to you. Look. But you have to sit back and wait and see. And part of that is the conversation is that sometimes things look like failures. But if you're not trying things, if you're not out there stepping out and to try something new with the potential bravery to face failure, then you're not going to succeed. You will never win. You'll just be complacent. And are you truly living at that point if you're not willing to go out there and one, fail, but also two, to share the experience with others so that they could figure out how to either navigate so that they don't have to go through the same thing, or to know that whatever experience that they're having is something that's not insurmountable.
Right. Exactly. And I agree. So when you talk about having that strength, so we talk about strengths a lot because you have a lot of them. You have multiple, you have like layers of strength, and that's from your previous experiences. But what would you say is a weakness? Like what terrifies you? Even in your strength, even in all your courage and fearlessness, what scares you?
What scares me? Well, as an entrepreneur, and I think that this is part of my motherly instinct, and not even just as an entrepreneur, I felt this way in my previous roles as well. I feel responsible for people. So in the last agency or the agency prior to that, I felt like it was my responsibility to make sure that clients still put money on the table, to make sure that people can pay for their homes and put food on the table for their children. And so I hold this level of responsibility to care for people that I feel that are under my purview. And so my biggest fear is that I'm somehow under delivering for the people that depend on me. So I think that frightens me more than anything, is that I'm somehow letting someone down, um, especially the people that need me to be there and to be solid for them.
That is a valid fear. And I, out of the servant leaders that I know, we all share that same fear. That is consistent fear because I've asked this question to several people I know, knowing that they have a heart of servants of service and their leaders. So there's servant leadership. And that is one of the things that comes up consistently, that they want to ensure that they are delivering for the people that they feel responsible for. And that just, again, speaks to your amazing leadership of your organization and why it has grown and why you have the team that you have. Your team is amazing. Even, uh, you know, even the people who surround you are outstanding, right? And I've talked big about having a personal board of directors, but your professional board, the people who surround you, I feel that there is a chemistry there that allows for you to have those yes and conversations and continually build upon each other's strengths so that when someone might feel hesitant on whether or not they've delivered the best, the rest of the team is there to bolster up and say, no, 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 we have done the very best. This is why we've done the very best, and this is how we're going to deliver the very best. And that's it. And I don't even know how I glean that just from stalking y'all because I do. I kind of stalk y'all. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of stalk y'all a little bit. I follow you on all platforms, so I'm a little bit of a Phoenix fan. I don't know how I glean all that, but that is what I see from you and your team, that cohesiveness and just all having that similar spirit of wanting to serve. So I'm gonna break away from these deep questions real quick and I'm gonna get into something fun. Okay.
Okay, okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
I think I'm ready.
And this is a funny question for me because of, if you could be a personal assistant to anyone, who would it be?
Ooh, if I could be a personal assistant to anyone, this is going to be an unpopular answer. If I could be a personal assistant to anyone, rate anyone, anyone at all,
Anyone.
anyone at all, I think that on the spot, and this might, you could ask me tomorrow, I might have a different answer. But I think that I would want to be the personal assistant of Vice President Kamala Harris.
So my answer to that question was First Lady Jill Biden, Dr. Biden.
Dr. Jill. I love Dr. Jill.
that
Love Dr.
that was my response to that question. I was like, ooh, Dr. Jill. But yes, absolutely. I love that.
I love Dr. Jill. I don't think that Dr. Jill needs my help. I think that Dr. Jill has one. I think I could learn a tremendous amount from her because I think she's an amazing woman. I love the fact that she's still teaching and doing the things that she needs to
Yes.
for her identity rather than just kind of fading into the background or I get to do a practice or some initiative, whatnot. She has a career and she gets to continue to deliver on her passion to teach. I feel that there are lots of opportunities for Vice President Harris to be celebrated for the things that she is doing. And I don't believe that the greatest job is being done to communicate them. And so we're hearing a lot of things about she didn't do this or she bought pots or something for $600, some craziness. But I feel like that she could use some more support, and I would be happy to do that. And I'm sure that I could learn a tremendous amount from her as well. But I think it goes back to your point about servant leadership: is that where could I add value? How could I help? And I think that she doesn't get as much praise as she should. And I think that is a function of strategic communications.
Absolutely. So, in that same vein, if you could leave three things in a time capsule for people to open in 50 years, what would you leave?
I'm sorry.
You tried to hold that face for a long time. You know you wanted to laugh.
Because I started going down a path in my brain about like what things and what will do. So that first I said, I started thinking about things that were important to me. And then I started thinking, wait, hold on. What's the world going to look like in 50 years? So they might need they might need some supplies like some matches or flashlight batteries.
I wanted to wait. So I was thinking they need like an almanac, some seeds to plant stuff,
Yes,
and
yes.
like a shovel.
Some encyclopedias. Like they need books.
Yes.
Because
Yes. I was thinking real basic. I was thinking farmer's almanac, some seeds, and a shovel. Because the way y'all going right now, I don't know.
we're on the same page on that one. But it started where I was like, well, what would I want people? What could I impart to them that would be about things that I value or something like that? And then I went into the oh no.
But once again, it's saving humanity. That's what it's saving humanity. That's what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the serious questions now. I had to ask those questions. I did because so I want you to understand. I don't ask questions.
Can I tell you something?
What happened?
I just need you to know that you probably would have no way to know this, but I'm an undercover doomsday prepper. So I read all of these dystopian books, and I'm constantly thinking about like if the zombie apocalypse were to come, who needs to be on my team? What types of supplies am I going to require? Whatever the equivalent of the zombie apocalypse may be. How will we be prepared to survive?
So at least I know whose house I'm coming to.
But you have to have skills. I have to.
I have plenty. I have plenty. Listen, you've seen my gardening
I've
skills.
seen you gardening. Yes,
we will eat. We will all be vegetarians, but we will eat because I'm not hunting anything. But we will eat. We will have plenty of vegetables and fruit to eat. Plenty.
I'll hunt.
Okay, thank you.
So
that settles that. We can survive that. All right. So how do you, so thinking about the fun stuff, how do you balance the work part, the mom part, the wife part, in the you part? How do you balance all of that? And is there such a thing as balance? Do you believe in balance or do you believe in integration? Because there's two theories of thought.
So I think I could subscribe to either theory because you could probably explain it from a different perspective one way or another. I think that if we refer to it as balance, we'll know that things are always out of balance. And so if things are always out of balance, but we're attempting to rebalance them, right, then how do you approach that? And so I try to prioritize. And when I prioritize faith and family above everything. And I think that what I do from a work perspective supports that. I think that what I do in the community also supports that on both the faith and the family side. And then at the end of the day, it is determining where you're out of balance and trying to push more into that direction and pull away from. I feel like my calendar's schedule fills up pretty far in advance, and I agree to things that seem like a good idea because I was free at the time, but by the time it rolls around, I have 800 things to do at that time period. But it's important for me to cut things off. So with being a wife, which I think is paramount, above all relationships, my relationship with my husband is more important than any other relationship that I have with a human being. So date nights are scheduled and we do them regularly. That is on the calendar. We don't play about that. We do date nights where we go out separately, and I am not behaving as mom because behaving as mom changes your perspective on how you do as wife. So there's that. And we also schedule overnights so that we are away, so nobody's coming knocking on the door asking for something at 5 in the morning if they've had a nightmare. So making sure that you have those kind of things in place are important. I do the same thing with the children. Making sure that I cut off at the time of day is necessary to make sure that I reviewed homework, that I've checked in on them. We work out together in the mornings. Like the things that we do as a family are incredibly important. So not just what we do day to day, but also family experiences are on the calendar and I don't deviate from them. So those things are paramount, and then I fit everything else in where it fits in. And I think that the best piece of advice that I could give to anybody in trying to achieve balance is learning when to say no. And sometimes, even if you agreed to it in advance and you get to the point where you're finding that you're overloading, that you have to be able to back out of things and reprioritize again, either by rescheduling or what you need to do. But you have to make sure that you take care of number one. And number one is you, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't help anyone else. So exercising, sleeping, drinking my water, and minding my business.
That all works. That all works. Because I'm recovering people pleaser, sometimes I have a hard time saying no. But as I've gotten older, I find that I've been able to say no more frequently, and it's catching some folks off guard because the 50-year-old me is not the same as the 45-year-old me. She's definitely not the 40-year-old me, the 35, 30, 20. She's definitely not the 20-year-old me that was so very eager to please.
Can I just say, though, that the 50-year-old you looks like a 20-year-old?
Oh, God bless you. God bless you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We shout out to Loretta and Louise and Josephine and them for their good genes. Shout out to all of them. Shout out to all of them because yeah, shout out to them. But whereas I feel like I have more to give, I am more stingy with what I give out because I was giving, and then at the end of the day, I was empty. And I find that even that's a piece of advice I would give to my 25-year-old self. Like, don't feel the need to fill up your entire calendar to please others if you haven't made yourself a priority. Like, if I could go back and talk to my 25-year-old self, her and I would have a serious conversation. if I could go back and talk to my 25-year-old self, I would tell her, no is a complete sentence. People will be disappointed, but they will get over it.
Yes, they
And
will.
those who really love you, those who really truly love you, will not allow you to put yourself at a deficit for their gain.
Yes, that's all great advice, not just for your
So
20
what would you tell
year
your
old.
25-year-old self?
I think your advice is great advice, not just for your 25-year-old self, but for anybody who's listening. Because I think they'll, even as a, not necessarily a people pleaser, but um, for someone who feels obligated to serve, right? That I feel like I can make a difference. That's like a big thing. I want to make a difference. I want to make it better. I want to help. And I do things probably to my own detriment because I am loyal to a fault. It's not even just trusting. Even when I know what to expect from people. I still give the things that I give because despite their deficiencies, I'm doing the things that I believe are right for me, right? But that doesn't mean that you still don't end up overloaded. What would I tell my 25-year-old self?
I think he froze. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Are we in? Are we back
There
again?
you go. We lost
I'm,
you for a quick moment, but then you're back.
I'm
So
back.
you would tell your 25-year-old self,
I think I would use a lot of the advice that you gave, but I would also say live. Because tomorrow's not promised, and even though we're here today, we don't know what's coming tomorrow. We don't know what's coming down the pike. And this time that we have on this little blue rock is so short, and we're reminded of this on a day-to-day basis with all the loss that we've experienced, and with all the people that are no longer here. So I would say live and experience as much as you possibly can. Soak it up while you have the opportunity. And then I would also say, as a reminder, to make sure the people that you love know exactly how you feel about them. That they know how important they are to you. So that you never find yourself in a situation where you felt like you should have, could have, would have, and you lost the opportunity to do so.
that is awesome advice. That's great advice. I need to add that to the list of things that I need to tell my daughters before they turn 20. Um, so speaking of advice, what advice would you give to women who are looking to start their own business or wanting to move up the corporate ladder that they're on, or the women who are comfortable with that corporate position but want to pursue that passion, but not necessarily full time? So the hybrids, like me.
That's a lot. What I would say is for folks that are interested in moving up the corporate ladder, or if they want to grow their career, I would say that the best piece of advice that one can have, and actually you follow our social channels. It was a quote that was posted the other day. Essentially, the gist of it is to not try so hard to fit in, but to find the place where you fit. And so I think, especially now in this environment, we have more license, more warrant to show up exactly as we are and to contribute and to demonstrate the power that we have from our perspective and our experience. And so I would say finding where you fit is important, because if you're in a place that doesn't appreciate that or tries to diminish your light, then you're in the wrong place. Don't compromise who you are to fit in. Find where you fit and you will thrive.
That
So
is a finger snap. I'm telling you. Go ahead.
so that is for folks that are on their career path. I'll make an argument that, back to the point that I was making for my 25-year-old self and about living and experiencing and doing the things that bring you joy, if you're working and you're not passionate about what you do and you want to either become an entrepreneur because you have a great idea and you know there's a consumer need out there for said idea, or if you want the hybrid approach because you love your job and you don't want to make a full-time commitment to something else that's on the side, but you really want to be able to pursue that passion, again, life is short. So if you figure the amount of time that we spend working, we spend more time working than we spend doing anything else in life. And if you're spending your time and your energy and your resource and your light in a place or in an environment or doing an activity that doesn't really bring you joy, you have to find a way to incorporate joy into that workspace, whether that's in the hybrid approach by pursuing a passion on the side, or if it is a career change, or if it is stepping out completely and saying, I'm going to pursue my passion full time as an entrepreneur. Life is short. And when you do the math on how much time we spend working, you want to make
It's
sure
a
that
whole
you
lot of work.
allocate much of life with things that bring you joy and bring you happiness.
Yeah, I as someone who is a hybrid, because what I do professionally, um, I also do for me. It is lit to hear people say how much money someplace else if you went to work someplace else. And my answer is always, I don't advertise how much I make when I'm Maven.
Right?
I don't advertise it. I mean, I know some people subscribe to that. They like to talk about, their 5-figure months and 6 figure. That's nice. I don't subscribe to that. Um, I do what I do because I love it. I do what I do because it's a God-given assignment. And how dare I question him? Because as much as he's given it to me, he could take it and give it to somebody else. So I don't question it. I just go ahead and I was like, okay, Lord, you need me to do what? Oh, okay. All right. So, you needed me to, all right, I'll go. No problem. Opening up just to say, yeah, I'll go has opened up so many doors. I don't stress about what I could be making working for somebody else if I still have the flexibility to do what it is that I love to do and still have all my good benefits and still have that flexibility and work life balance. Like, I think that people have to find it works for you. Don't feel guilty about not doing it full time. If you love your corporate gig and you love your other thing, your passion, and you have time to do both, and neither one of them are competing, who says you can't do that?
And
Like, I'm a huge supporter.
both of those things bring you money. Some people have passions that are just things that make them happy, and they spend the same amount of time doing that. But you're also bringing income on both sides, which is fantastic. There's the other part of it. The story is that I know that I've encountered a lot of people who have those really great jobs where they make so much money and they are incredibly unhappy. And
Yes,
spending, not just burning the midnight oil, but again, that critical amount portion of our life
yes,
doing something that doesn't make you happy, or where people are, or you're in a constant battle because you're constantly being diminished. I mean, power to them because they are paving the way for others, and
right.
that blazing path is yeoman's work. It is difficult work. But if you're talking about if you're doing it because you want to create a future for others, then that's great. But if you're doing
Hmm.
it for the check, you can't take it with you.
Oh no, absolutely not. Once you get past that point of doing things for a check, and there's a beautiful place where your passion meets your pocketbook.
Yes,
That's a beautiful place to
I
be.
like the place.
And you know what I mean? Like, I wish that for everybody. Like, I wish for everybody's passion to meet their pocketbook. Like, if that can happen for folks, I am ecstatic for them. Like I said, I I'm blessed on both sides, and I am encouraging for both sides. Move up the ladder if you want to. but make sure you're moving up where you want to and not where people told you that you should be. Stay where you are and enjoy it and revel in it and still do what it is that you do that you're passionate about. If it brings you a paycheck, yay. If it doesn't, but it still makes you happy, double yay.
Right.
Or better yet, if you want to step out on your own, make sure that you've surrounded yourself with the people that can help you be as successful as possible. Because entrepreneurship, while it can be singular, it should not be. You should surround yourself with people who have been there, done that, and can help you miss some of those pitfalls that come up. You know what I mean? So I feel that when people such as yourself who have worked on both sides, like there's some people who have never worked a corporate job in their life. All they've done is work for themselves. That's it. That's all they know.
Right.
I think there's a level of gravitas that comes when someone can say, "Yes, this is my company, but I also have, you know, 25 plus years behind me
Right.
in the corporate sector. So I speak your language, and yes, I speak mine. And by the time we're finished, we'll have a new language." Like, I think there's something amazing about that.
I think that's interesting. I think that's a good point. When you're starting a business and you're not familiar with that industry, or you really, one, there's a learning process that's there that you have to go and figure out, well, how does this even work, and how do I fit into it? How do I add value? How do I contribute? And how do I make it profitable? I think my experience is somewhat different in the fact that I'm doing the same type of work that I've done throughout my career. So it's not new to me. Like, how does it work? How does it operate? And all of those things I'm already familiar with based on my experience for the last couple of decades. So even as a new startup a few years ago, it wasn't like the traditional startup conversations that I would have, where you've been in business for 6 months or a year. Yes, but we have combined centuries worth of
Right.
experience doing this exact
Yes.
and you mentioned my team earlier, and I am fortunate. I'm incredibly fortunate because I have people that I've worked with in some capacity or another over this same period of time. Some folks that I'm working with now that are on my team that have been on my team for 3 agencies and 20 some odd years. I have some folks that used to technically, because they were the client, were my boss. And then I have some folks that I've hired out to do different things on the supplier side. Um, but again, they are tremendous subject matter experts that come with all of the experience that they've had in their perspective. And what's one of the things that you probably already know is interesting about our company, or a differentiation, is that diversity is intentional. So it's not just something that, we have this percentage of this or that or whatnot, but the diversity of thought and experience is what helps us to provide a higher degree of quality for our clients. So we're intentional about making sure that we have the right perspectives that are at the table. And so that's not just in the folks that we have from the team that have been with me for years and years and years, but as we continue to bring on new folks into the fold, there is an intentional focus on making sure that we have created a space where all people can come together and be valued and feel like they belong. And that's an exciting place to be. There was another thing you mentioned earlier too, and I think that was about balance, like work-life balance. And we actually refer to it as life-work balance. So it goes back to prioritization, because work is important, but work is what we do to make sure that we can pay our bills so we can eat and do things. And it's great when the work that you do is what you love and it brings you joy.
Right.
But life is why we're here. I don't believe that there was anything that the creator told us that had to do with what you really do between 9 and 5 or 3 and 11 or whatever shift that you're working, but really living. And so making sure that we're balancing with that perspective, that the weight should be on the life side and the work is there as a necessity, I think is important too. So that's one of the things that we use internally, is that we talk about our life-work balance versus our work-life balance.
I like the flip of those words. I like that. I'm going to start using that. Life work balance. I like that. See, I
What's mine?
learned something new.
What's mine is yours. We're twins. You didn't tell everybody we got the same name dog.
Yes.
we
Both families are Marvel fanatics. Like scary. And now we know that we can depend on each other in the possibility of an apocalypse, and we'll both eat. So
yes,
that's a great thing.
I'm going to eat vegetables. I know that I don't want to get scurvy.
You gotta eat vegetables. So really quick, I planted corn for the first time this year. We're gonna see what happens. When I tell you I've planted all kind of things, we're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna see. I'm going to see if I can get me some corn to grow.
Now, if you get corn to grow, then that's going to bump up your zombie apocalypse team score. In that, one, as a grain, it gives us the ability, we can make meal and that sort of thing. But if we can figure out how to turn it into fuel.
So those are the things that I worked on. So yeah, okay. So I'm gonna do one more silly question, and then then I'll wrap it up. It's not even a silly question. It's not. Okay. That's silly. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
That's what I think it is.
I'm not doing that. Okay. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that either. What is the nicest thing a stranger has ever done for you?
The nicest thing a stranger has ever done for me. Wow. That's a tough one. Because strangers do nice things all the time, right? And I think as a stranger, as me being I know I do nice things for people. I've definitely been the recipient of the pay it forward at Starbucks a number of times, which I love that. Although I'm not currently doing Starbucks because I'm not getting any of my money.
I would say yes, because I've been the recipient of the pay it forward at Panera.
Yes.
Which honestly, like that whole pay it forward thing, I always think it was. I've always thought of it being a beautiful thing, but I never thought it would happen to me. And honestly, the first time it happened, I was in such great spirits for the rest of the day. I think it shifted my entire mood for the entire day. Like I think it just shifted everything because I looked at things differently. I was like, well, somebody did something competent. They didn't know me.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know who I was. They had no idea who I was, but they thought of it. They thought nice of me. Okay, thank you. So yes, that was my thing. Like somebody paid for my whole order for me at Panera. Now
I do love the idea that people will do things for people that they don't know who they are.
Yeah, just randomly, just a random acts of kindness. I think that when you see people help each other who wouldn't necessarily help, like it's the random things like when you're traveling and you see somebody who got about 4 kids and they're traveling by themselves and they're trying to wrangle all of them. You're like, do you need me to hold the stroller for you?
Yes.
Because you
just made me think of one. So we were traveling and we were flying through Atlanta Hartsfield. And we were traveling with David when David was a baby. So I had the stroller and then whatever bags that I had. And my husband had the diaper bag, the baby bag, but it had other things in it or whatever. And it was a Coach bag. And he left it on the train in Hartsfield because you know how you have to take the train from one place to another. And someone turned it in. And so he went back to where he had left it, but they did an announcement and they had it at the gate for him. So we didn't have to get on the plane without diapers and wipes and all of the stuff that he needed. But I don't know who that stranger was, and I didn't get to see them, but I really was appreciative of that.
I know you were.
In the convenience store in the airport.
But that's just, see, it's those types of acts of kindness. Okay, so this is the final question. It's always my last question because one, follow you. Hello, follow this woman, please and thank you. She's doing amazing things. So, in our final minutes, what is next for Elizabeth and what is next for Phoenix?
So, what is next for Elizabeth? For Elizabeth specifically, is a lot of the same things. Continuously learning, because I think that that's important. So I'm constantly exploring and learning and looking to see how can I do better and how can I provide more. So that's always going to be on the horizon for me. As far as Phoenix is concerned, we're continuing down our trajectory of growth. We have a number of client partners that are in the wings, relationships that are being built, organizations that we're working with today that are also expanding their needs for our support. So all of those things are wonderful. I am looking forward to the end, or at least the new normal that is post-pandemic, when we do finally get into a place that we're certain that is safe. A lot of the experience that we have as an agency is in experiential marketing, events, concerts, performances, and all kinds of great things. But we haven't been doing as much in that area because a lot of the clients that we have been, have had trepidation for obvious reasons going through
Understandable.
that period. So I am looking forward to that horizon, because when that happens, there will be a whole lot more of that division expansion and a lot more of the expectant Phoenixers that are waiting in the wings to come and join the team as that division continues to expand. So I'm really excited about that around the corner.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to thank you for sharing this time with me and being open to answering all of the thought-provoking questions, the probing questions, as well as the silly questions. And they're not necessarily silly, but it's the it's the fun questions that honestly sometimes generate the most conversation and sometimes thought. So somebody's going to be thinking like, if I could be a personal assistant to somebody, who would it be? And you really thinking about who would and why, because the reasons you gave for wanting to be, uh, Vice President Harris's personal assistant were valid and very poignant reasons. So yeah, so I like doing the fun questions. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all, for everyone who caught on live. If you're watching the replay, please make sure you put in the comments that you caught the replay. And if you're catching it on YouTube, put in the comments that you caught it on YouTube. But in the meantime, please make sure that you follow Phoenix Lifestyle Marketing Group on all platforms. They are everywhere. They are doing amazing things. And if you are looking for a true professional, a true maverick in this marketing game, Elizabeth Kemp Caulder is the woman that you need to call. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thank you for joining Maven Conversations. And I will see you all next episode. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.